Hi, it's Ivy Slater. Thanks for joining me here today at Slater Success Live. We are also doing this as a dual show, and that means this is going to be put onto Her Success Story, our podcast. Why, you might inquire? You might be asking yourself, why are we doing this? This is our season that we celebrate and cheer on all the nonprofits of the world, as many as we can highlight. There's great leadership doing important work out there. For those of you who are not regular followers of Slater Success Live, Ivy Slater, or Her Success Story, here's the deal. This is about a personal mission for me. I believe during the holiday season, we should learn about giving and receiving. We always like to receive those lovely little gifts. This is an opportunity to open our hearts and open our minds and learn more about ways we can show up for others, how we can give. So today I have two amazing guests, Kiran and Michele. Kiran is and I'll probably get this, Kiran, I'm probably should have you do your own introduction, but Kiran is the CEO of United Way, Northern New Jersey, and the president of United for Alice. Michele is the director for United Way, Northern New Jersey. Ladies, come join me. And thank you. Thank you for taking, time. This is a really busy time of year for everybody to be showing up for the nonprofit season. So huge gratitude to you. Thank you. Let's start with Kiran. Introduce yourself and a little bit of your background, because they'd rather hear you talk than me talk about you.
Thank you so much, Ivy. We're so happy to have some time with you today. Really appreciate your invitation and the work that you do as part of Slater Success. I'm the president and CEO of United Way Northern New Jersey. I've been with this organization over 10 years. I have a long history of working in the nonprofit and public sector for about 35 years now, actually. But I really am just very proud to lead this United Way. I became CEO in March of 2020. Right when everything shifted.
Wow. I'm just going to say, wow, what an initiation.
Yes. And it's been better than I could have ever imagined or hoped for. And so really looking forward to talking today and for Michele to share more about our Women United work and what we're doing here in New Jersey and nationally.
Michele, how did you get involved in United Way? What is a little bit of your story?
Well, when I was preparing for this, I gave that some thought, and it's interesting because my background is in public relations and corporate communications. And I do remember being on the workplace leadership campaign for United Way for a corporate campaign back in the day on the other side, and I absolutely loved it. So when this opportunity came up with United Way Northern New Jersey to lead the Women United Philanthropy Group, I took all my stackable skills and convinced them I was the one for the job. And I'm still here 10 years later and loving it because we get to give back year round.
So let's start with a little piece of education. Okay. I think it's important. A lot of our viewers and our listeners, and thank you for everybody tuning in. Whether you're listening live, whether you're coming back and listening to this on a recording on LinkedIn, YouTube, or Facebook, or if you're listening to this as a recording on Her Success Story. Can we get, Kiran, share a little bit about the mission of United Way and what the organization is about?
Thank you. Thank you for that, Ivy. And yes, I'd love to talk a little bit about our mission and what we do. And I would first start by saying that our United Way is unlike any other United Way in the entire United Way network. So out of 1,200 United Ways globally, there's no other United Way like our organization. Many people are familiar with the United Way brand and have some connect to United Way throughout their life. But our United Way operates very differently in that we work on the ground here locally in New Jersey across 5 counties: Morris, Somerset, Sussex, Warren, and most of Essex. We have Montclair and 11 communities. And we operate direct service programs in 4 areas to help Alice families each year. And then we also operate a national research and analytics project called United for Alice. And for viewers and folks may not be familiar, ALICE stands for Asset Limited Income Constrained Employed. And it represents here in New Jersey, 37% of our households in New Jersey fall below what we call the ALICE threshold.
And I want to jump in here, because very often when we talk stats or statistics, right, it's, oh yeah, and it's 37% and you keep going. But I want our listeners and our viewers to truly understand that this is 37%. That's a solid more than a third of households that cannot afford to live, live with shelter, with clothing for their families. And this is, for those who've been followed, I am a New Yorker. I have, born and bred. This is our neighborhood, people.
Yes, very much so. So when we think about ALICE, we're talking about, the folks working in daycare centers, at retail, where we get our mechanics and our cars serviced, folks working in nursing homes and on the front line in hospitals, the essential worker that we all really relied on. That's who ALICE is. You're absolutely right, Ivy. They are our neighbors. And they're really the mainstay of our entire economy, retail, service, the care economy. Without ALICE, we all struggle if we don't have ALICE helping us.
So, Michele, share a little bit about what the ALICE program, how it comes in and helps these families. What is this about? Because in the business portion of this, and we're all business women here, and most of our viewership and listeners are business people. We understand that there's a pain point and there's a result, right? The core of sales, and sales comes through every business model out there, including the nonprofit sector. It's just done differently. So when we see the problem and the pain point of the recipients and the families that ALICE helps, and the results, what is the other side of that? Can you share a little bit about it, Michele?
Well, so to Kiran's point, we are a national research project, and yet there's boots on the ground locally. So locally, we're really into creating systemic change, and we do that through several programs. There's one called United in Care, which was a hub and spoke model where we work with the family child care centers. And we set them up with a gold standard school so that these small women-owned, 99% are women-owned businesses out of their homes, and could imagine what was going on during COVID, they have access to quality childcare, so that when mom or dad are going to work, they can put their child at a family child care center, knowing that that child is in the best of care. We have an ALICE at Work program, which is working to train corporations and businesses to really little things they can do to improve life for ALICE, because that mom needs to decide. She needs to know her schedule. And for many businesses or ALICE workers, your security guard at a corporation, your cafeteria worker, your janitor, they will not know their hours until the night before their 2-week stint. And so we're working very hard to create an education program that will go national in time. We also do locally, we do tax prep, and it's a free tax prep program with VITA, and we are very well respected in this area, where we will prepare taxes for ALICE and poverty level at no cost, helping to bring back thousands of dollars into ALICE's pocket, which then in turn they can pay their bills, their medical bills, a flat tire, their childcare, or and invest it back in the community. So Kiran, do you want to fill in some blanks there if I missed anything?
Thank you.
Yeah, no, I think you gave a really good summary. I think the only other fourth piece I would add is we do a lot to support ALICE in crisis. And specifically during the pandemic, we raised over $2 million and helped provide emergency cash assistance directly to ALICE families. And as you recall, Ivy, during that time, there was a huge backlog in unemployment in the state of New Jersey. There were a lot of rules and guidelines around accessing resources and assistance. So we work directly on the ground with many partners in disaster and crisis to really help families. And we always say, the Red Cross is there right away and FEMA is there right away. And then United Way is there when those folks leave. And we do a lot more kind of long-term recovery work for families in crisis. All total, we serve over 10,000 families annually through all of our programs, including all of our volunteer programs, which kick off. Our Gifts of the Season program kicks off this week, which is a lot of the frenetic energy that you may sense going on right behind me today. Michele and I are in the midst of doing a lot of prep with the team today.
So share a little bit about Gifts for the Season. I have to ask.
Sure. So it is a gift collection donation program where we work with families and partner organizations, Alice families, and that serve organizations that serve Alice families across our 5 counties. It's also a tremendous way for all of our volunteers, whether they're in a company or through Women United or through our board or another group of volunteers, really get to help and contribute and support and spread some holiday cheer to a particular family. My family, we always adopt a family. And so it's really nice for my kids who are grown and out of the house. We all, take a family and do some shopping together. And it really helps, give us a chance to remember what the holidays are all about. And, I'll just share the family that we're working with has 4 children, and most of the things they asked for were basic things like a coat and gloves and a baby doll and pajamas. So, it's really folks who desperately need assistance.
It's interesting. We think, I have a couple of things I want to go, but we think, a family in need is in dire straits, but it's the little things. It's the small crises that we don't realize that impact a family, like that flat tire, or a car problem that is all of a sudden really makes a huge dent in the budget, a unexpected illness in the family. And it's the unexpected things that come at us that really throws families that are working hard on taking care of themselves, and most importantly, taking care of their children.
Yeah, and they're doing that without, in the Alice category, which is just above the federal poverty level. And what was it? How much for a family of 4, Kiran? $82,000.
So the Alice, one of our primary metric that Michelle's referring to is the Alice survival budget. And we refer to Alice families that an Alice family is a family that earns below. So some insider language, Ivy, is we say the Alice bat, below Alice threshold. And so for a family of 4, it's $82,000 and that's combining wage with the real cost of living in areas of childcare, healthcare, transportation, housing, et cetera. And then, so that $82,000 for a family of 4 compared to the federal poverty level, which you may be familiar, is one number for the entire country, no matter where you live. It doesn't take into account geography or local economy or the market you're in.
I'm sitting here, my mouth is starting to hang open. I was like, wait a second.
I know.
Cost of living in New Jersey, New York, the surrounding areas is a very different cost of living.
Yes.
And similar to the cost of living in other big cities like your San Francisco's and your Los Angeles. I mean, there are when you're surrounded in the big cities and the demographics the outskirts of a big city, your cost of living is different than in rural parts of the country. And there's not good or bad. It's just fact.
Right. And so that's the whole kind of foundation of the Alice data and our methodology, is that you really have to go granular. You have to look at what it takes to live and work in a modern economy by county, by municipality, by state. And that's how our data is operates, is that we look very, very down to the census tract in many cases.
Right.
So that's the variance that Michele is referencing, is, the 82,000 versus 29,000.
Right. So just imagine trying to get by on that. And, for the women that I work with, our Women United group, they really understand not only the metrics, but the people behind that. And, we have conversations about who is an Alice in your life. Who did you pass today on your way to work? Who helped you get to work today? My gas station attendant, my barista, my dry cleaner. Many of the moms have caregivers at home. And it's not only the statistics, but it's really putting a face behind it. And that's why these women get so engaged in the work, because it's solid data. In God we trust, all others bring data, as Kiran would always say to us. But they're rolling up their sleeves and getting involved. And that's something else about women. They don't want to just make their donation. They want to do things like gift of the season. They want to go to harvest vegetables, which we did this summer, and bring them to the schools. They want to build a playground. They want to make soups. They really want to roll up their sleeves and make a difference in their community. And going back to this Alice data, our United Way is unique in that how many states are we in now, Kiran? Our data is drilled down by state. So every state, every county can drill down to see where's the need, what's the need, what can we do to create systemic change in our communities.
Yes.
It's interesting because this time of year, we always think of nonprofits of opening up our wallets, right? And there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. Okay.
Yes.
Firm believer is, giving to others is a way of giving a gift to yourself in your heart. And I will also say there's a huge importance for the people who show up to volunteer. So can we talk a little bit about the amazing droves of volunteers that you have rallied, and the people who get involved that way? Okay, which one do you want to take this on?
Yeah. Well, I'll start. I will say that, again, women in particular love to show up. And you can't imagine what they've showed up for. I gave a few examples, and I could throw in tools for schools and all the cars that go all over northern New Jersey to deliver backpacks and pick up things and distribute it and make sure the right person gets it. And if one little guy was left out, we make sure that they get what they need. And I'd say the same thing for all of our volunteers. They're always looking to step up and get involved. And I love the way, giving from the heart. That's, to me, is different than the for-profit sector where you give money, but this is money from the heart, and then you see where it goes to create this change. Kiran, we have our boards, we have everybody stepping up, volunteering, connecting. Connecting is the biggest thing. Is we just make connections and relationships that are long lasting, and all those tentacles just go out literally nationwide.
And I will say, in a little bit, I was at one of your events, I think pre-COVID, to see the droves of people that show up to make a difference.
I think that's one of the most amazing things about United Way in my 10 years, that I am continually amazed by the caliber of our volunteers. As Michele, spoke to, our Women United volunteers. We have another affinity group from the commercial real estate industry. We have a 25-year history with volunteers and donors and companies in that sector. Michele mentioned our board. We have numerous amounts of committees. We have a National Research Advisory Council that's, 65 researcher volunteers across the country. So and then we've got the folks that are certified, trained by the IRS, that are part of our free tax preparation program. So it's really a mix of everything. And they're the the mainstay of our work. We wouldn't be able to function without them.
They fundraise, they advocate, they volunteer, and, they're fulfilled, which, there's nothing more fulfilling, to your point, than making a donation or rolling up your sleeves and seeing a change in somebody's life. And quite frankly, they also network and make a lot of connections for themselves as well, business, personal. So it's really a win-win. We have everything from community philanthropists to volunteers to lots of men and women in the C-suites, right down to your security guards. So it really draws in people who really get the work, and you clearly do, Ivy. So thank you for that. I feel like I have one of the best jobs in town, because not only are you working with these incredible humans, even our staff, it's, that everybody is just in it to make a difference together.
So let me ask you guys on a personal note. Start with Kiran and then Michele. What drove you into this world? So from your backgrounds, from our education, it's like all of a sudden we end up, with Kiran, was the nonprofit sector always where you were mission driven, or did this come about differently for you?
Yeah. I'm very lucky, because I've really only worked in the nonprofit and public sector. I've worked in government and for nonprofits here in New Jersey and New York City. I had the opportunity to do a lot of internships as an undergrad, and I went to graduate school and continued, and I really wanted to make a difference. And so I was really fortunate to, be in different organizations, working very community-based on the ground in Newark and Paterson and a few different local CDCs across New Jersey. I've worked hands-on. I ran a large-scale after-school program in New York City and Washington Heights and Harlem and Bed-Stuy, multi-site. And similar in New Jersey, prior to coming to United Way, I ran a statewide network of after-school programs. And really what brought me to United Way was the call out for Alice. I remember seeing the job announcement, and for the first time in my entire career, I applied for a role without knowing anyone, without being recruited, without either formally or informally. I was just so compelled by this notion that of Alice and the opportunity to really use data to drive change. And so I for the first time, I literally stayed up all night. I read the report, I wrote a cover letter and submitted, and didn't hear anything. And I decided a month or two later that I'm just going to pick up the phone. I'm going to be old school. And Michele knows this story.
By the way, I love that.
Yeah.
I have to say, we don't remember to do that often enough today. We don't remember that when you really want to reach somebody, there's something called an old-fashioned, somewhere in this camera view, an old-fashioned phone that actually works. It doesn't even have a cord anymore, but you pick up the phone.
Pick up the phone. So I did. And I left a message for the then CEO, really at the time. And he called me back. He said, I heard your message and let's meet. And 2 days later, I had an offer, coming from him and the board. So it was really just, I was really compelled and really drawn. I'm a first generation on my father's side. My father immigrated here in the 60s from India. My parents struggled. My mother grew up in Newark in the Irish tenements. My parents had a lot of challenge being biracial, having a family very young, not a lot of resources, but they did have their education. And so, even though we struggled, we were definitely Alice coming up. But my parents were really able to work through that and kind of get to the other side of some stability. And a lot of our Alice families don't have that opportunity. And so I've spent my whole career working with Alice families, and I'm just so fortunate to be in this role and in this position right now.
Well, Kiran, first of all, I think everybody should hear this interview for just what you said. Is you saw something, it interested you, and you did the next steps that felt right to you to go and accomplish what was important to you. There are so many obstacles and challenges out there. And so often people like, oh, well, I tried and it was online and I couldn't do this. They find everything that waylays them, detours them, obstructs them. Versus, I was actually talking to a client this morning, and I can't make this stuff up, listeners. I was honestly, God, talking to a client this morning, and I said, I've always kind of believed, in one sense, that it's okay to break some rules. In the other way, in today, because all those people who said to me growing up, like, oh, you can't do this, and oh, you can't do that, and oh, you can't do this. And I just kind of quietly went on my path, and I did what worked for me, and it made things happen. Today, we're living in such an age of innovation that I have switched the breaking the rules. I've just decided to be innovative. And you were innovative. You did the old-fashioned thing and picked up the phone. How innovative.
Innovative. I don't know.
I love that.
Yeah.
Michele, what drove you to get involved with the nonprofit world? Because that was not your background.
No, it was not. But I will say that Kiran's family is amazing, and they've actually, her dad does works in our tax prep program. We keep the family active. It's a really great question about what got me. And the first time I had to make a speech at our first Women United Rise and Shine event, which was about 8 years ago, I gave that a lot of thought. And I was like, why do I just have this feeling of doing something? And I remember when I was a little kid, I used to go with my grandmother to her fundraisers, which those days it was called Hadassah, or the Menorah Home, which I think's become a big corporate conglomerate now, still servicing the elderly. And my grandfather, I have a plaque he received. He was a carpet salesman, and he received a humanitarian award. And they didn't know what kind of award to give the carpet salesman, and it was a humanitarian award. It's like, that says it all. And, I did have a background, as a food publicist. I worked corporate communications. I've worked at other not-for-profits. I was a director of cultural arts and film festivals. And when this opportunity presented itself, I just jumped on it because it just felt right. There's just something. I got to go to work with incredible people, and make a small change in the world with other incredible people. So it's a win-win all around. And
I love that.
Yeah.
Doing this work is a win-win.
Yeah.
It's a win-win. And you get to end your day and put your head on the pillow and know you made a difference.
Right. And I will say, interestingly, I work with so many women, and I always say I'm almost the bartender for, hundreds of women, because I know their problems and solutions and this and that. There are many women out there who actually look to make career changes because they want to do something more meaningful.
Yeah.
And not that if a job enriches you, then you stay there and you love it. But to your point, if it's not, break the rules. If it's not for you, go after what you want.
Ladies, how can our listeners, our viewers, continue to learn more about United Way Northern New Jersey and get involved, make a difference, adopt a family?
Well, the best way is to visit our website, www.unitedwaynj.org. There's all information there about Alice, how to volunteer, how to participate in Gifts of the Season, how to make a gift. We're really looking for a tremendous year-end donation from a lot of funders, a lot of donors. So hope folks will maybe be inspired. Any contribution, it matters. Every dollar goes directly to families. So that's the best way, is to visit our website, to sign up to volunteer, to participate in a gift program, or to make a donation. Every penny counts, and we are truly so grateful for every donation.
Yes. And I'll add also our social media. You could find United Way Northern New Jersey on LinkedIn, Facebook, X. We did just launch a new Meet Women United campaign. So if you want to get a sense, again, if you go to the website that Kiran mentioned, unitedwaynj.org, you could start to take a look at the our leadership council, our members, and why they chose to get involved. So that will happen monthly now. Meet Women United, and we'd love to meet you.
Love that. Ladies, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Ivy.
Thank you, Ivy. Happy holidays to you.
Happy holidays.
Thanks,
and listeners and viewers, here's our ending message. So stay tuned. This is important, people. Number one, if you're following us on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, leave a comment below. Leave a comment of what was most impactful to you in listening today. If you're listening on her success story, take a moment and think about what your takeaway is from listening. What is the one thing that impacted you? Give yourself the gift of jotting it down somewhere, whether it be in that phone, because you can use it for phone calls as well as notes. Jot it down on a sticky note, on anything that serves you, and then make a decision on what's one action you can do with what you took away today. Doesn't have to be big or small, but to find one action and follow through on it. That is a gift for the holiday season and all year round. Thank you again for joining us. We'll see you next time on Slater Success Live, as well as her success story.
Thank you.